What everyone should know about workplace mobbing. It may seem inconceivable to many people that I have been a victim of this psychological phenomenon referred to as workplace mobbing multiple times for more than 20 years. Perhaps you've experienced being a victim of extreme bullying and unfair treatment in your workplace that resulted in you feeling cheated after devoting time and energy into working for a company only for them to maliciously rip your life foundation out from underneath you, leaving you to wonder if you will ever recover and how you will provide for your family. Some researchers believe that office bullies choose targets because they are different from the majority of their coworkers. These differences might include gender, race, religion, sexual orientation, age, physical attributes such as being tall, short, overweight, underweight, etc., or disability. Generally, victims are hardworking, non-confrontational top performers in the organizational structure. These traits are often exploited by bullies who believe that the victim who strives to be a team player and get along with everyone won't aggressively respond to the bullying. Just about everyone can relate to the classic interpretation of the school bully who continually picks on their victims and steals their lunch money. Sadly, as adults, this happens in the workplace as well. But instead of taking just your lunch money, they want to take away your hopes, dreams, identity, reputation, livelihood, and your main source of income. Workplace mobbing can be defined as a malicious attempt by a group at work with collusion or participation by bosses and administration to emotionally destroy a person and force them out of the workforce through unjustified accusations, isolation, humiliation, general harassment, emotional abuse, and/or terror. The main issue with bullying is that the perpetrator desires to control the other person's behavior, usually for his or her own needs, personal agenda, or self-serving motives. Bullies use a variety of subtle and sometimes not so subtle ways to control others emotionally, psychologically, and even physically. Adept bullies and manipulators are often extremely controlling people who are attuned to certain personality traits to exploit others. They are skilled people readers and make it their task to understand someone's flaws to determine what techniques can be used against them. Some even go a step further and mask their bullying behind a charming and nice demeanor and even a noble cause. Bullying often goes unnoticed in the workplace because it is a slow process of emotional and psychological manipulation that is hard to prove and detect. These subtle signs are all used to create an emotional reaction, usually anxiety, which establishes greater control and power over the victim. Intimidation. Thinly, thinly veiled threats of fear-inducing communication and behavior. Ignoring. Deliberately ignoring, avoiding, or not paying attention to someone. Forgetting to invite someone to a meeting. Selectively greeting or interacting with others besides the victim. Isolation and exclusion. Intentionally excluding someone or making them feel socially or physically isolated from a group, purposely excluding someone from decisions, conversations, and work-related events. Rationalization, constantly justifying or defending behavior or making excuses for acting in a derogatory manner towards the target. Minimization, minimizing, discounting, or failing to address someone's legitimate concerns or feelings. Diversions, dodging issues, acting oblivious or playing dumb, changing the subject to distract away from the issue. Pitting employees against each other, unnecessarily and deliberately pitting employees against one another to drive competition, create conflict, or establish winners and losers, encouraging employees to turn against one another. Removal of responsibility, removing someone's responsibility, changing their role, or replacing aspects of their job without cause. Impossible or changing expectations, setting nearly impossible expectations and work guidelines, changing those expectations to set the employee up for fail. Withholding information, intentionally withholding information from someone or giving them the wrong information. Projection of blame, shifting blame to others and using them as scapegoats, not taking responsibility for their problems or issues. Taking credit, taking or stealing credit for other people's ideas and contributions without acknowledging them. Here I will discuss the overt signs of bullying. Outward aggression, yelling or shouting at an employee, exhibiting anger or aggression verbally or non-verbally. Intrusion, tampering with someone's personal belongings, unnecessarily lurking around someone's desk, stalking, spying, or pestering someone. Coercion, aggressively forcing or persuading someone to say or do things against their will. Punishment, undeservingly punishing an employee with physical discipline, psychologically through passive aggression, or emotionally through isolation. Belittling, persistently disparaging someone or their opinions, ideas, work, or personal circumstances in an undeserving manner. Embarrassment, embarrassing, degrading, or humiliating an employee publicly in front of others. Threats, threatening unwarranted punishment, discipline, termination, and or physical, emotional, or psychological abuse. Offensive communication, with demeaning jokes, untrue rumors or gossip, or harassment. Campaigning, launching an overt or underhanded campaign to oust a person out of their job or the organization. Blocking advancement or growth, impeding an employee's progression, growth, and or advancement in the organization unfairly. How does the bullying begin? What went wrong? Obviously, you were chosen for the position, went through the training, and even had pleasant conversations with your boss and coworkers. So at what point did it all go wrong? I will discuss some factors that should seriously be considered. Issues to consider. Within an organizational structure, there is often tension brewing underneath the surface with at least one individual. Although the camaraderie among staff members seems polite, people can sometimes hide sinister plots that originated from the first day the target was hired and was just waiting to find fault to launch a hate campaign against the target. Number 1, jealousy of work performance or position. Number 2, racial tension. Number 3, being well liked by others. Number 4, differences of opinion of religion, politics, or overall lifestyle. Number 5, lifestyle improvements. 6, the target's looks, intellect, or personality. Number 7, being negatively influenced by outside intrusions such as a stalker. A key point to remember is that the stalker is likely in direct contact with someone within the company, typically management or the business owner. Managers and business owners are 100% responsible and should be held accountable. It is managers' responsibility, as well as a business owner's responsibility, to set an example of proper conduct based on the adherence of federal and state guidelines. They should be aware that their actions make a difference to everyone who watches them. People are weak-minded and tend to blindly follow leaders regardless if they are right or wrong. So if they abuse subordinates openly, they encourage the rest of the staff to do so as well. Stop inciting arguments by pitting employees against each other based on discriminatory issues. So as victims of workplace mobbing, we were exited from the company due to the poor management of that organization. Managers and business owners are 100% responsible and should be held accountable to establish a healthy workplace. They should set an example of proper conduct based on adherence of federal and state guidelines. They should be aware that their actions make a difference to everyone who watches them. People are weak-minded and tend to blindly follow leaders regardless if they're right or they're wrong. So if they abuse subordinates openly, they encourage the rest of the staff to do so as well. They should stop inciting arguments by pitting employees against each other based on discriminatory issues, or other issues for that matter. Understand that political or religious views are not likely to be held by everyone. Stay neutral. They should keep employee information such as pay rates, promotions, and personnel files confidential. Protect the employee's privacy. They shouldn't participate in subordinate gossip. They should be responsible and keep conflicts under control. Instead of promoting it, they should stop it. They should learn to speak to everyone and avoid stereotypes that might invoke tension. Avoid and redirect conversations relating to the employee's appearance because it is sexual harassment. Take complaints of bullying seriously. If you are currently in a leadership role, seriously examine your behavior and determine if you are the one who contributes or incites the bullying, and put a stop to it. Consider implementing policies to protect employees against bullying. If you are currently going through the mobbing process at work, it's important to keep a record of everything that is being said to you. During my experience, I kept a notebook as a journal of all the comments that were being said to me. This included times, dates, and who was involved. I highlighted anything that fell under the category of discrimination. If possible, use a phone, camera, or audio recorder and save any email or document that can be used to prove the misconduct. After sufficient evidence is gathered, take the complaint to the Human Resources Department, but do so only to show you made an attempt to resolve the issue. Make sure you record the date, time, and who you spoke to in the Human Resources Department. If you don't have an HR department, list the name of the authority figure that you spoke to. Do not expect any positive resolution. In fact, you are most likely to experience an increase in the amount of the harassment. There are two reasons for this. Number one, although the human resources representatives are there to resolve conflicts, their ultimate goal and function is to protect the interest of the company. The second reason, most importantly, because mobbing is, after all, by definition, a malicious attempt by a group at work with collusion or participation by bosses and administration to emotionally destroy a person and force them out of the workforce through unjustified accusations, isolation, humiliation, general harassment, emotional abuse, and/or terror, which that only means one thing. Yes, that's right. Human Resources is in on it. One must remember that although being bullied at work is painfully unjust, not all forms of harassment are worthy of being presented as a lawsuit, mainly because federal law does not protect employees against general workplace bullying. However, federal labor laws protect employees if the company targets a victim based on a protected status, such as race, sex, national origin, religion, political affiliation, ethnicity, marital status, or disability. The victim has the right to report the incident to government authorities and to request an investigation. The business may face both civil and criminal penalties as a result of tolerating mobbing under such circumstances. Once a formal complaint has been filed, you should be protected from retaliation, but that doesn't mean they won't terminate you anyway. Believe me, I know. My biggest regret was believing that after filing a complaint with the owner, that the harassment would die down and I would be able to continue my job in peace, but I was completely wrong. The harassment was increased to unbearable measures and I was indeed terminated. I encourage those who are going through the process to immediately seek legal action, because whether you decide to leave the company on your own or your employment is terminated by management, you will never be adequately compensated for what you went through. In my experience, I was issued a few $1,000s as a severance package and a lukewarm reference from my employer, leaving me to have to come up with a professional explanation as to why I would leave a perfectly good paying job. As we all know, it's never suggested to badmouth a previous employer in a job interview. So you should be warned that finding another job is going to be bumpy, unstable, and uncertain. The effects of workplace bullying don't end when you leave the corrupt work environment, because being a victim of bullying can cause physical and psychological health problems, including anxiety, higher blood pressure, insomnia, panic attacks, post-traumatic stress disorder, stress, strokes, and ulcers. For many workplace bullies, it is not enough to have you expelled from the company you work for. In fact, it is not uncommon for them to want to prevent you from other work opportunities and will use the same unethical tactics to harm you further psychologically as well as financially once you leave the corrupt work environment. So expect more sabotage. The bully may blacklist you in and outside of your community. They will work with other employers to set up fake job interviews to traumatize you further. If the bully is extremely tyrannical, they will spread the negativity in and outside of the community by using gang stalking activities. For more information on gang stalking, see my video, What is Gang Stalking, listed in the description box below. It is important to take advantage of the legal system as soon as possible, because as I previously mentioned, you deserve full compensation after suffering. If you are currently employed by the company, find a competent employment lawyer and start proceedings as soon as possible, and keep your plan of seeking legal action private. Aim high for the highest amount you can get. If you have just recently been terminated and are no longer with the company, don't delay filing a lawsuit, as there is often a window of time when harassment proceedings can be filed. Check your local state requirements for this.